Hey, Trauma Rock Stars. I'm so excited for this episode and for you guys to meet Kam Knight. I have been literally dying to get
Mhm.
him on this podcast, and he's a very, very busy person. He's an international speaker. He's also the author of not 10, not 11, but 12, possibly a 13 best-selling author, best-selling books, and he also coaches and mentors. So I want you to meet him. He has got such a great perspective on resistance and or resilience and getting over obstacles in life. And I want you to meet him, Cam. Thank you. I'm so honored to have you on. And you've been so generous just for the little time that we've known each other. You've been so
Yeah.
generous with your time and things that you've offered me personally has been wonderful. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. And you are actually right the first time I talk about resistance,
Hmm.
and resilience is part of resistance, but
Hmm.
we need resilience when we have resistance. And when we don't have resistance, we don't need as much resilience. So, more or less, I now, after writing 12 books, and there isn't a 13th, and there's a reason why if we get into it.
Yep.
I came up with this concept of, hey, wait a minute, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of our mind built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part internal resistance. And
Hmm.
it is this brick wall that we hit anytime that we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it. So I think this would be a fantastic topic considering it is a new year. And a lot of
Yes.
us do get excited about stuff, but then it starts to fizzle. And oftentimes they don't know why. And I think this podcast will be really helpful in uncovering a lot of that.
Well, and you have such a wealth of knowledge. You've traveled to over 100 countries, correct?
Yes,
So
over a
you
hundred
bring so
countries.
much wisdom with that as well. And I think you're going to inspire so many people. And I wanted to hone in on your aha moment you had in 2020, I think it was.
Sure.
So just kind of start from the beginning. Like, how
Yeah.
did you become Cam?
Okay. I'll start from the way beginning.
Okay.
When I moved to the US, my brain more or less had a culture shock. It
Mhm.
was so starkly different from where I'm from that it was a shock to my brain. And unfortunately, my parents weren't really around. I mean, they were physically around, but not to raise me or show me the way. And as a result, I grew up on television. I was trying to figure out like what was going on through television. And unfortunately, the conclusions my mind made was that it was all about the external, that I needed a big house, nice car, prestigious job, and a lot of my bank account for people to like and respect me or for people to even want to be around. That combined with my parents having high expectations and low support, I was a fairly driven individual at a very young age. And although I feel like I've had my fair share of success, I felt like I missed the mark, or the success was much harder than it needed to be. So when I was in high school, I wanted to get into an Ivy League college, and that didn't happen. Although I got into a decent school, I went through the backdoor method where you
Hmm.
apply to a really easy major, and then once you get in, you switch to the major that you really want.
Right.
Yeah, and then when I graduated, I wanted to work for a Big Five accounting firm. At the time, it was Big Five. I think it might be Big Four now. And although I got a good job, it wasn't that. And this was really a pattern in my life. Every time I wanted to do something, whether it was getting fit, learning a skill, or things like that, I would get really excited to start. Either I wouldn't start. If I did start, I'd end up getting distracted. If I didn't get distracted, I would stop before making progress. And if I managed to make progress, I sabotage myself before getting to the end. And I did this over and over for years and years. And I wondered why that was. Why
Like we do.
exactly? And then there was this question that always lingered in my mind. Why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can or don't do it? And unfortunately, at the time, there were no clear answers. the best answers or the most common answer that was talked about. And in fact, it's still being talked about as like the only reason for our blocks is beliefs. Like if you have limiting beliefs that'll hold you back, or if you don't have beliefs in line with what you're doing, then it'll be hard to move forward. And although that didn't really fit the bill for me, I always felt like there was more to it.
Hmm.
Over the past, like let's say 15 to 20 years, that question always lingered in my mind. Every time I felt stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Why don't I just get do this dang thing to get the result that I want? And then the more books I was reading, coaching myself I was doing, and then the seminars
Hmm.
I was attending, the more I was learning about the complexities of the human brain. And over the years, my brain, unknowing to me, was like processing all that information. And one day I just had that aha moment like, oh my gosh, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of our mind built to keep us from growing. And again, I call this part resistance. And it is that brick wall that we hit anytime we want to do something, but we can't. So it was a long journey. And again, it was really the 10th book where that idea started to kind of germinate. So my
Hmm.
10th book, Concentration, in one of the chapters, I talk about a concept called the wanting mechanism, how the part of our brain that creates wants is pretty unrestrained and it's always creating wants one after another, and how that can make it difficult for us to focus. And
Hmm.
from there, the idea related to resistance started kind of coming about. And I really kind of put it into a program. I call it Conquer Internal Resistance in about 2020, 2021.
And well, 2020, that's when you had your aha moment, correct? Which
Yes.
is right when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
So you had lots of time to to really hone in on,
Yeah.
I guess, become an expert at figuring all this out. And I used to always say, why am I procrastinating?
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a procrastinator. Nobody does.
No.
But I used to say, why am I procrastinating? And sometimes I still catch myself doing it a little bit. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned, like, what are some of the blocks?
Okay. So I will say that it was around 2019 where the idea, I had the aha moment,
Mm-hmm.
but it was in COVID for sure when I
Mm-hmm.
was actually working on it. I mean, I had plenty of time to just work, like
Yeah.
really develop it. And people really resonated. So the idea has been really growing since then.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, it helps to understand that the part of the brain that creates wants is in many ways unrestrained. It's creating wants one after another. It was never meant to check to see if the want is worth going after pursuing. Its only job is to create wants, and it's cranking out wants day in and day out at a pace faster than anyone can achieve.
Mm.
And then we have another part of the brain, which I call resistance, and its job is actually to check if the want is worth going after and pursuing. And what's really important to understand is that it's possible for both the brain to create a desire for something and at the same time keep us from going after it. So if people have ever like wondered why they struggle, now they know why is because it's dynamic.
They fighting against each other?
In some ways, in some
Yeah.
ways. So it's not so much fighting against it, it's I have the want, and then this part goes, well, I got to make sure it's safe, it's worth doing, it's going to be fulfilling before I let you do it. Because if we didn't have this part, we would just be like a kid in a candy store going from one thing to another.
Hmm.
So this part, in a way, is extremely important. And so anytime a want or desire stands before us, it gets evaluated by this part of the brain using a whole host of criteria.
Mm.
And if this desire is not in line with any of the criteria, it will prevent action. So, a great analogy for this is thinking about standing before a panel of judges or a board of directors. Every decision, desire, course of action must go through them. If even one of the members is against the idea, it will not pass. Now, the question naturally comes up, what are these criteria? And I'll get to that in a second, but I do want to add that both parts can get in the way. The parts that create wants can get in the way, and the part that create resistance. But I'll talk about
Interesting.
resistance first. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the criteria is obviously beliefs. If a person doesn't believe something is possible, of course their brain is going to keep them from going after it. Though it goes a little bit deeper than that. It's not just about if we think something is possible, it's if we think it's possible for us. So a lot of times we may think something is possible because we're seeing others doing it and having success. And then we're like, we want to do it. But then we might have this really deep down belief that we're not even aware of that it's not possible for us. And that part will stop us.
Is that
And
the subconscious?
it's all subconscious, more or less.
Hmm.
But then it goes deeper still. Another reason has to do with self image, meaning a lot of people have created various self images of themselves. Like they might see themselves as cool, studious, or tech savvy, but they won't apply themselves or study or put themselves out there, or more or less they'll procrastinate because a part of the brain worries that if they experience difficulty or things are much harder than they expect, then they can't identify with that self image anymore. So it's much easier not to do the thing and hold on to that self image than to do it and prove it wrong. Does that make, and we've all been there where we kind of tell us, yeah,
You're like, right, yeah.
yeah,
You're in my brain right now.
exactly. I'm going to go a little bit deeper.
Yes.
And then there's what I call core needs and wants. So we humans are designed with all sorts of needs, the need for love, attention, affection, and
Hmm.
physical contact.
Hmm.
And some of these needs are deeply ingrained into us, like the need for a mother's love or a father's guidance. And if growing up, the brain thinks that these needs can't be met, won't be met, or is too dangerous to be met, it'll prevent us from going after them. Makes sense, right?
Hmm.
But because these are core needs, the need doesn't go away, it just gets louder and stronger and more painful. But because the brain believes that these needs can't be met, it feels it has no other choice but to distract us from that pain. And there's many ways it'll distract us, and one of them is by making our lives difficult, challenging, and keeping us from finishing anything we start. So our attention is always on problems and not the pain. And this is pretty wild. And
Holy shit.
yes, yes. Because
I, so our attention is on the problem and not the pain that's causing the resistance.
no, the pain that it's caused, the
Or,
pain of the love and attention that we're seeking that we don't feel like we can get it.
oh my
So
gosh.
I'll share a story and I'll give
Yes.
another example. So I knew
Pardon me, I
some,
didn't mean to swear, but oh my gosh, that is profound.
yeah, it goes even deeper, but we'll go a little bit um,
Mhm.
into this one a little bit more. So I knew someone who wanted the love of his dad, but his dad never gave it to him, and it hurt him. It hurt him a lot. So much so that he lived a hectic life, living paycheck to paycheck, never being able to make ends meet.
Mhm.
The reason his brain did that is because if he could finish what he started, his life would be good. And if his life were good, this pain would be at the forefront of his awareness. But because his brain felt this need couldn't be met, it felt it had no other choice but to distract him from the pain. And the way his distraction manifested was having a more challenging and difficult life. So the focus was always on problems. And this isn't just with mom and dad. This is with a lot of people are alone and want to, meet that special someone. So I see this pattern a lot with guys who don't feel they're good enough for a woman. They really, deep down, the belief is no woman could want me. And it's painful because we're built to be around others, especially with
Mhm.
intimacy.
Mhm.
And a lot of these people have a hard time getting their life together because if they did get their life together, then this pain becomes like really at the forefront. And because their brain or they believe it could never be resolved, their mind just goes, what's the point? We'll just continue doing
Mhm.
things this way. And so they fall into a lot of avoidance and destructive behavior. So this could be another reason procrastination and sabotage show up.
Is this subconscious brain working this way? Is this a learned behavior from early childhood?
I would say a lot of it comes from our childhood,
Hmm.
meaning when we are growing up, our brain is learning who we are, what we can expect of ourselves, and what we can expect from the world.
Hmm.
And it's from all the interactions that are happening, our interactions with parents, the teachers, friends, and bullies, if they're making fun of us, if our parents aren't there to like help us out when we need it. Our brain is coming to conclusions like I'm not enough, I don't deserve, or I'm too much, or I'm broken. And so that's just the belief part. The other parts are kind of more ingrained into us,
Hmm.
meaning when we have these core needs, um, that's just the human condition. At the most basic fundamental level, we come out of our mother's womb with a
Hmm.
bunch of needs. And if we're growing up and these needs aren't being met, it does create a lot of pain. And sometimes to the point where we will get destructive and do unhealthy things just because it's too painful to have that at the forefront of awareness. So when we see a lot of kids in, let's just say, unhealthy behaviors or distracted behaviors or whatever, a part of it is because their parents aren't around, they're not getting the attention, affection, and love that they desire, and they're acting out this way, one, in a way to get that attention, and two, to distract themselves from the pain. But they don't know what's going on. They just find
Hmm.
themselves acting out. And then the parents don't know what's going on either. It's like, why are you acting out? And they don't have a reason for it.
Hmm.
And then over time, what ends up happening when we hit up against resistance and we can't do what we want or what people expect of us, guess what starts to form? We start thinking, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I don't have what it takes. And then those start setting in, it makes it even more difficult now. Now the beliefs parts get in the way.
Can I back up just a little bit to the
Sure.
relationship part? Because everybody wants a healthy, loving relationship. Like
Yeah.
everybody longs for that. And I see so many like people I even know personally, men and women, they just have these unrealistic expectations. Like they just want like this perfect human and which doesn't exist,
Yeah.
obviously, and just has such unrealistic expectations for and there's and it's just is that part of being because deep down they feel they're not worthy?
So it's funny, as soon as you started going through relationships, the first thought that came up in my mind is a lot of people have unhealthy expectations, which is where some of their problems are coming from.
Hmm.
So a lot of our challenges with relationships is that we're expecting a relationship to be a certain way. But where did that expectation come from? What I have found in my work, especially working with my clients, the people who are struggling the most in relationships and have the most pain around relationships, there's one commonality across the board, and they watch a lot of media. They watch a lot of movies, the love stories, and they're
Hmm.
learning that this is what relationships are. And
Or porn.
yes, porn as well.
Yeah.
And this is what relationships are. This is what I need to have for me to feel like I am, getting my end of the bargain. When the reality is that's, and this is what I tell people, what makes for good stories is not works and does not work in real life.
Yeah.
And I'll tell,
They're actors.
yeah, and the story itself is it's out of line with what really goes on in the real world. And I'll give a
Mhm.
great example. I use men as an example because I see this pattern a lot. A lot of men watch these movies where that really attractive girl falls for that nerd. Like we've seen that movie over and over and over again.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and then they're learning, oh, if I act that way, I might get a girl like that.
Hmm.
And you'd be surprised, many men are acting that way, like overly chivalrous, overly sensitive, and things like that. But in the real world, that's just not how people respond to it.
Hmm.
And they either get taken advantage of or walked over, or women walk away and then they're in struggle. I'm noticing women have similar expectations because for them it's more of the knight in shining armor, and things of that nature. It goes deeper than
Hmm.
that. And a lot of times men and women go into these relationships either expecting that's what it is or hoping to turn their partner into that,
Yeah.
into what they
It's
learned.
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. And then when the expectations are met, it creates a lot of frustration. And then that other person can feel it. And then that person responds. And then it gets into some really dysfunctional behavior. And what's really crazy about all of is this is kind of plays out unconsciously. We don't even realize we're chasing these expectations. We're not even realizing that this is the expectation we made, and we don't even realize that it's from the media that we watched.
Mhm.
And so that adds to the level of complexity. But yeah, the relationship piece where people are struggling, it is because of the expectations. There are a lot of other things going on. And from my experience, the common denominator is how much media a person watches and consumes.
Relationships are hard in general, but since social media has been on the forefront of our lives for the past, what, 15 years, I would
Yeah.
say, it's just gotten ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really has. If it wasn't for the podcast and me trying to help people, I would prefer not to even be on it at all. And I
Yeah.
know that especially do you find with these like these blocks that you were talking about, like the blocks are part of suppressed trauma and stuff like that that people have gone through in their lives, some of which they might not even be aware of.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the blocks do come from trauma.
Hmm.
Then they come from our limiting beliefs. They come from things even that aren't really related to that. Um, and I'll try to explain it as best as possible. For in order for something to become comfortable and easy, we need to build a muscle for it. Like we need to build a
Go
habit,
to the
right?
gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we haven't done something, doing it in the new time or trying it, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel awkward and it's going to feel painful. And that's enough pain for the brain to go, no, we're not going to do it.
Hmm.
And so that has nothing to do with beliefs and that has nothing to do with past trauma. It just means that we haven't built a muscle for a task or activity. And because we haven't, it creates pain. And our brain, the way it works is designed to protect us from pain. And it isn't always using reason or logic to see if a pain is going to be helpful, like
Hmm.
growing pain or healing pain. It's really a simple on off switch. If there is pain or potential for it, block it or stop it. So if we're doing something new and there's pain around it, the resistance part is going to say, oh, there's pain. Let's block it or move away from it. It
Hmm.
doesn't understand that, hey, if we continue to stick with it, eventually we will build a muscle for it so the pain will go away. So that's one part of it. And then it can also go into what's really interesting. I think you might resonate with this. And I suspect, based on our conversation about your mom, she's got this going on like full throttle, is what I call authority issues. Authority issues relate to our unconscious, again, unconsciously held attitudes toward authority figures such as parents, priests, police officers, principals, and even personal development coaches like ourselves. So, what happens is if a person is growing up around people who are always telling them what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and how not to do it, at a certain point, their brain gets fed up of constantly being told what to do and it doesn't want to listen to or do anything.
Hmm.
And even when we grow up and want to do those things, that authority issue response kicks in and keeps us from doing it. So let's
Hmm.
talk about, let's just say diet and exercise, for example.
Hmm.
Maybe we had parents who were really on our case about eating healthy, our vegetables, and not sitting around watching television. And at a certain point, our brain got fed up listening to them, and now we don't want to do that. But then we get older and we're like realizing, oh, wow, it's affecting our health. I'm gaining weight. I am kind of sluggish. Let me go work out. But then the authority issue response kicks in. It's like, well, if we go work out and eat better, we will be giving them satisfaction. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to hold on to that authority issue. And and it's crazy because most people, especially in this country and culture, and I'll say why I say especially in this country and culture in a bit,
Hmm.
are not doing things because they want to or they like it. They're actually doing things in a response to some authority from their past who told them what they do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So why this country?
So I've traveled to over 100 countries,
Yep.
and I have noticed a lot of nuances and peculiarities. I don't say that word right, between different cultures.
Hmm.
And I've noticed in the US, there's just a lot more of, um, I'm not going to do with the norm. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do things my way.
Hmm.
And why? I think it's in our media. So when you look at a lot of the television shows,
Yeah.
it's usually that guy who's different who gets the attention, success, and the girl. And it's in our and it's also in our advertisements, especially towards kids. A lot of the foundational message in advertisements for products marketed to kids is don't follow rules, don't listen to the parents, like do your own thing. And it's kind of being ingrained in us. Then we go to school where we see some of the kids acting that way. And because we're meant to pick up, the human mind and body is built to pick up the behaviors around others, we see others doing it. So it gets reinforced. And we think we're choosing it when it's really all unconscious again. So,
So how does somebody begin to identify maybe some of these blocks? Like obviously working with you
yeah.
one-on-one would be a great start, but just to get to that point, to want to, work with you, and if some of this is resonating.
Yeah. So the first thing is to understand that desire doesn't lead to action. Just because I want to do something doesn't mean I'll take the necessary steps to do it. And if a person can start from there, then they can kind of unravel what might be going on, meaning they might have a desire or they might have a motivation to start something. Maybe it's to get fit, maybe it's to study, maybe it's to start a podcast. And then they find themselves not being able to do it.
Hmm.
Once they find themselves not being able to do it, not go into the thinking of, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't have
Hmm.
what it takes, or it's too hard. Start thinking, okay, maybe there's resistance coming in. I have some resistance going on. Unfortunately, the human mind and body are extremely complex. It's really the pinnacle of complexity in the known universe.
Hmm.
And so it's not something that a person can just reason and use common sense to figure out some of this stuff. Like some of these things we've talked about, it took me years and
Yeah.
10 years, like the authority issue stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I had uncovered a lot of layers of resistance, and then I kept hitting that a wall. And then I heard about authority issues, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a big one for me. That's why I
Hmm.
could talk about authority issues so much, and I can really go into detail about it. And remember, I was talking about how your mom kind of feels like she's in full Richter scale with this.
Defiance. Yeah.
Yes. It's like just telling her what to do makes her not want to do it. And that's really difficult to work with. So it is a little bit challenging.
Hmm.
There is a technique I have found that can help us get insights, and it's with self-talk. And for most of us know what self-talk is. It's creating statements of the outcome we want and then
Yes.
repeating them regularly.
Yep.
So, for example, if I want to become better at speaking, I created a statement like, I am an excellent communicator. I easily communicate my thoughts, ideas, feelings, experiences, and more. And initially, when I would repeat those statements, my mind would say, no, you're not. You don't know, like, you stutter and stammer, and it would trigger memories of times where I didn't communicate well or people were confused of what I said. And then it would trigger other things about my inabilities in that area or like a deeper beliefs.
Hmm.
Well, those are all signs of our resistance.
Hmm.
So, a good way for a person to start tapping into it is one, if they have a goal and they're not able to move forward, immediately assume there's probably something internal that's holding them back. And then they can create some statements of the outcome that they're seeking. Maybe let's talk about diet. They're like, I'm healthy and fit. I, exercise 3 times a day. If they start repeating that, pay attention to how the mind reacts to that statement. And that's going to give them a lot of data on resistance. Now, it goes deeper than that. And I have developed a technique that I use one on one that actually takes people into their unconscious and we can kind of see all facets of it and we can work on it in
Mm-hmm.
the unconscious level. Though it's not something that someone can just do on their own,
Mm-hmm.
it really helps for me to guide as somebody who understands all the facets of resistance and how it shows
Yeah.
up. And because a lot of it's very cryptic and nuanced, and you wouldn't even think it unless you were trained in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is that your mind mapping book?
That is my mind mapping book, but that is not the technique.
That's not the, okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
just wanted to, so when you were talking about, like the affirmations, I
yeah,
guess,
the self talk.
yeah, the self-talk, which I do that. Do you recommend writing it down and like I'll put sticky notes in my mirror in my bathroom and what do you recommend just as a starting point? Because
Yeah.
this all can seem a little overwhelming, but some people might be listening to this and be like, that's silly, but maybe I'll try it just to see.
Yeah. So you just opened up a can of worms here. And I'm going to go in all directions because one, I love self-talk. It
Yes.
was one of the first books I wrote, and almost all my other books have a chapter that I dedicate to self-talk
Mm,
because how important and powerful I think it is. And then before I dive into going into self-talk, I want to say that when it comes to resistance, it really helps to do little things that have big outcomes,
mm,
little actions a person can take that lead to the bigger steps that will move us
mhm,
in that direction. Because with resistance, our brain is always fighting against our efforts. And if we're trying to take big actions, after a while, we just get exhausted and drained. But if we can focus on the little things that can make the big changes, that's one of the best ways to counter resistance or to weave or work around it. And I personally believe self talk is one of the smallest, simplest things that can
mhm,
have the biggest results. The
mhm.
reason I say that is because self talk is so simple. All you have to do is talk. That's it. You don't have
Yeah.
to get up. You don't have to um, drive. You don't have to put force into it. You can literally do it sitting or lying down. That's how simple it is. And the reason it's so powerful is because those words go into our unconscious and start to rewire our brain to move us in the direction that the words describe. Meaning, it can actually unwind some of our causes of resistance. It can unwind
Mhm,
some of our limiting beliefs. It can unwind our self image and actually create a new self image.
mhm.
And you talked about how should we get started and things of that nature, or like should we put it on a mirror and things of that. So there's levels to everything, and there's
Mhm,
levels to self-talk. The best a person can do is to repeat it out loud with emotions and belief.
mhm,
Now, that's not always possible. So if a person just repeats it, even if they
mhm,
don't believe the statement, it'll have a profound effect. In
mhm.
fact, what I like to say is you don't have to believe the statements for it to work. You just have to repeat it, and the mind will take over from there.
Okay.
And then there are lower levels that I don't recommend because a lot of people will write it. A lot of people will put it on a sticky note and on their mirror or
I've
computer.
done that. Yeah.
And that's better than nothing. But the reason I use the word self talk and not affirmation, because it's a talking of it. You really
Mhm,
have to talk as long as you do it in your head. Because
mhm,
if you're waiting in line and you just start talking to yourself, like, I am healthy and fit, I am exercising regularly, it will still have benefits. It'll still go into your unconscious and start to unwire the old and rewire the new. But if you're just kind of looking at it, it just changes our mood in the moment. There's
mhm.
not as much rewiring happen. So it really comes down to the speaking. Now, In my 100 country journey over the last 15 years, I have come down to a statement that if a person repeats, it can have huge shifts in their life. Would you like to hear that statement?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. This is especially around resistance. So it's
Okay.
I'm a do it now person.
Yep.
I easily do things now.
Hmm.
I easily accomplish my goals right away.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go into the psychology of why this is so important. The first part of the statement, I'm a do it now person, is designed to create an identity of someone who does things now. So again, when a desire comes up, resistance looks at it through a whole bunch of criterias. And I talked about some of the criterias. It'll look at our beliefs, it'll look at our self-image. Is doing this thing have the potential to damage our self-image? It'll look
Hmm.
at our authority issues, but it'll also look at our identity. And
Hmm.
if we don't have an identity of someone who's an active person, resistance will stop it. And so if we can create an identity that we are a person who does things now,
Hmm.
anytime we do have a desire or we need to do a task or activity, it'll filter through, I'm a do it now person. So yeah, I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
The second part of the statement is I easily do things now because we can do a lot of things, but doing things is kind of can be annoying and painful sometimes, right?
Yes.
So I added
Or
easily.
overwhelming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I added easily so we can actually enjoy doing it. And then the third part of the statement is really important. I easily accomplish my goals right away because it's easy to do a lot of things and just spin ourselves in circle. And a
Hmm.
lot of times people who have resistance do that. They're really active, but they're not going in there anywhere and they're wondering why. When they can
Hmm.
add, I easily accomplish my goals right away, it starts to train the brain to focus all of our doing and efforts in a particular direction.
You know how I know what you're saying works? And I love this statement, these three statements that you said,
Yeah.
and I'm going to start saying them to myself every morning because,
Thank you.
but, and I don't think I haven't had a chance to share this with you yet, but when I was in my car accident many years ago when I was little, I had a horrible head injury and I
Yeah.
had to learn how to read, write, walk all over again. I'm a terrible reader. I love reading, but I'm a really slow reader,
Yeah.
very slow. You know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
So you shared with me some chapters from your speed reading book,
Yeah.
which is incredible, by the
Thank you.
way.
It's right there
And
behind me.
Yep. This book is incredible. Everybody that's listening, it's so easy to read, but you shared me these chapters and before I even started reading it, I said to myself, I am an incredible reader. I just
Yeah.
said it before I just went in. I wanted to go in with the right mind frame. And I said that. And I was traveling. So I was on a plane. So I wasn't saying it out loud, but
Yeah.
I was like, I'm an incredible leader. And then I dived in on those chapters. My reading speed has doubled. And I'm still
Yeah.
practicing it every day. I'm not an expert yet because distractions, but
Yeah.
my speed reading has doubled from
And it's
the
probably easier.
tools. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so much easier from the
So much
tools
easier.
you gave me.
Yeah.
And this is how I know what you're saying about the self-talk.
Yeah.
It's like it's the top tier that what you need to be doing.
Top tier. Like if you're not
Yeah.
self-talking, everything's going to be harder. If you can
Yeah.
start self-talking, you can make things much easier. And then to circle back to what you said,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people think of self-talk as silly. How could this possibly work?
Mm-mm.
And what I want people to understand is majority of our challenges came from words. It came from parents
Wow.
saying, you can't sit still, teachers saying, your work isn't good, peers and bullies making fun of us. They were just words. And in fact, we never even tried it. We just heard somebody say, you can't do it, or you're a dork, or this will never
Mm-hmm.
work. And
Mm-hmm.
the brain hooks on that. And then it starts forming these beliefs and self images and then identities. And then we start playing it out as if it's real. And when the brain forms these connections, it feels as real as, or it feels as true as the sky is blue.
Yes.
And you can't imagine things be any other way.
And the sky's the limit now. Once you
Yeah,
master doing this, you can do
yeah,
it for anything in your life.
yeah. And I will say I have used self-talk quite a bit to get to this point because I had a very traumatic brain injury as well,
Mhm.
um, multiple times at a very young age, and I had a lot of sensitivity to things. Like I was a mess, and self-talk was one of the foundational things that got me to this point. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question. What would you rate my speaking ability or my ability to verbalize and articulate some of these concepts?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to tell you at some point before we close out how beautifully and eloquently you explain everything.
Yeah,
And it's so easy to understand and it makes it feel it's like it's so obtainable.
yeah, so intuitive. Well, I
Yes.
will say one of the challenges I had was communicating in the verbal word.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
at a certain point, I got really good with the written word.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people who read my books, whether they like it or not, they'll say, one thing that makes me know I did my job is it was so simple or it was so intuitive. But I couldn't verbalize my ideas
Mm-hmm.
anywhere near. I would stutter, I would stammer,
Yeah. And that's
and
part of the head injury.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what ended up coming out was very different from what I had in my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did I do? I created a set of statements. I am an excellent communicator. I easily communicate my thoughts, ideas, feelings, experiences, and more. I
Yeah.
can write about and verbalize anything. I'm never at a loss for words because the right words come to me quickly and easily. And I repeat this every day to this day, and
Mm-hmm.
it has improved my verbal communication by leaps and bounds. In fact, I didn't go out and train or learn to speak or get a speech coach. I literally just started repeating this and it
Yeah.
started happening on its own. Now, I do put a little bit of effort to make sure I am communicating better, and I have the experience from developing decent communication skills with my writing, but it was from the self talk. So you'd be surprised what you can do and achieve by just creating the right statements.
That's amazing. And, and I feel for you because I know, having the head injury, I had
Yeah.
aphasia and the head, and everything myself. It was very frustrating for years just because you knew what you wanted to say, but you couldn't get it. You
Yes.
can't get it out.
Yeah.
And so I understand that frustration. And even as an adult, like even, went to, speech therapy and all, even as an adult, I still find myself struggling sometimes to verbalize what I'm feeling. And I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. You can write it, but why
Yes.
can't I? So I'm actually going to start saying that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead
I'll,
of the other three you gave me, I'm going
yeah.
to start doing that every single morning because I want to write a book myself and I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell myself that anymore.
Mhm.
I don't,
And, and I just talking to you, I can tell that you can think and process information at a high level. So you have the ability to do it, but
mhm,
now you're just hitting up against the resistance.
right.
Maybe the self-image, the identity, the beliefs. That's what's going to make it difficult, not because you can't do it. And again, if you can write some self-talk statements around it and start repeating it regularly, the next day you're not going to become
It
award-winning
takes
writer.
time.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised if you stick with it every day within a month to 2 or 3 months. You'll be surprised how much better you get. And what's really crazy is when you start changing in the unconscious level, it's not even any effort or force. So what I mean by that is if after 2 months you've been consistently repeating the statements every day, you'll get to a point where you'll forget that at one point that you were a bad writer or that
Mhm.
you used to struggle because it just seems
Right.
so natural.
Yeah.
And that's what self-talk can do.
And I can tell you, I mean, you've done a lot of work because I mean, you're a beautiful speaker. I know you're constantly on platforms
Yeah.
and shows and things like that. And, so you give me hope. And it's funny, part of that with that is I've always, and I don't know if it's because of this, but I've always hated my voice. Like
Yeah.
I always felt like my voice sounded goofy or whatever,
Yeah.
and I've actually been made fun of but from
Yeah.
my voice, over the years as well. And doing this has made me learn to just accept it
Yeah.
and love it. My voice is my voice. It's not going to change. And so this will help.
Yeah. I resonate with that 100% because one of the things I still get is my voice is soft. I need to project more. And, I do
Mm,
a little bit of work around there, but
yeah.
I do resonate when you feel like you don't like your voice and people are judging you for your voice because it just makes you go silent.
Well, because people have.
Yeah.
Over the years, people have, and people are
Yeah.
just idiots, they shouldn't be saying that. But,
Yeah.
I think, like you said, your voice is soft, but your words that come out are so powerful that I
Thank
don't
you.
think it matters.
Thank you
I
very much.
think that's amazing. And but I thank you so much, like for being so generous with sharing this speed reading help with me because
Yeah.
I really need it. I really needed it, and the timing was just perfect. And I can't thank you enough for that. And I absolutely love it, and I still refer back to it to
Oh,
this
yeah.
day.
Nice.
So
Great.
it's
Yeah.
right, it's there for me. And anybody that's struggling with any of this, you have 12 best-selling books, which
Yeah.
people can go to your website to see and which ones might resonate with them. But what might be one or two that would be a good starting point for people? I know you've got the one behind you, the Everyday
Yeah.
Memory.
Yeah. So I always recommend people start with the speed reading
Hmm.
because the book not only helps you read faster and in a way where it's not as much of a strain. Because
And
some people,
comprehend.
yes,
That was the big one, is comprehend what you're reading.
exactly.
Yes.
Because a lot of people there are a lot of book lovers who love to read because it's
Hmm.
not a strain for them. And a lot of people want to read, but they don't. It's just because it's a strain.
Yeah.
So the techniques and tips that I provide are meant to work with the natural way the brain likes to take in and process information. So it's very natural and easy. And a person can accelerate their reading speed quite fast, like double or
Yes.
triple it in matter of minutes for a lot of people.
It's brilliant, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to give away any of your secrets, but the way you explain it, it is brilliant, and I've never in a million years even thought about that when I was
Yeah.
struggling. Like I'm like I got to get faster.
Yeah.
I'm like, how could it be that simple?
It's simple. And then I also say that speed reading is not reading if you're not understanding what you read. So a
Exactly.
lot of times people assume if I read faster, it'll lower my comprehension. But it's possible to both increase your reading speed and comprehension. But I
Hmm.
take it one step further, and that's because the way the brain works, it doesn't hold on to information as long
Hmm.
as we think it, it will. Meaning, we can read something really profound, very motivational, and even very epic, and think because it's profound and epic that that information will stay.
Hmm.
But that's just not what the brain works. So
Yeah.
I also help people remember the information they're reading for longer. So that's really
Oh,
key.
you do.
Yeah.
And I am the first person to tell you it is a miracle. Like
Yes.
what it for me, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
And I can't even it's truly a gift what you gave me. So thank you
Yeah.
so
You're
so
welcome.
so much.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to maybe talk to you about mentoring them,
Yeah.
where do you start with someone? Because everybody's
So,
got all kinds of different issues going on and
yeah.
blocks. No one's the same with what they struggle
Yeah.
with. So,
So I will say for the people who made it this far into the podcast, I've got three free gifts for them. The first is called Prompt Engineering for Your Mind. The human brain was original ChatGPT, and we can prompt it just like ChatGPT to give us answers and solutions, but more importantly, act on those solutions.
mhm,
So that's the first guide. The second guide is build skills and habits in your sleep. It's possible to work with the unconscious and to develop, build habits and skills without really putting a lot of effort. And it uses the technique of self talk. and that's the second guide they'll get. And the third is the concept of internal resistance. It goes more into how our own wants create challenges, some of the other causes of resistance that we didn't get a chance to talk about here, but an even more important concept, which I call the tricks of resistance, that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get a chance to actually bring up at all. And they can get all three of those guides at kamknight.com. And then if the people wanted to work on with me one on one, they can email me at mentor@kamknight.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say I really can work with various challenges and
Mm-hmm.
gambits of where people are at because I was there. I had all sorts of
Yeah.
challenges, mental, emotional, physical, and I have gone to over 100 countries doing the work. But not only that, but I'm doing a lot of the stuff that people actually want to do in their goals. Like I salsa and bachata, I rock climb, I do yoga, learning a couple other skills. And you might think it's easy to pick it up, but I went through a lot of resistance. And what
Mm-hmm.
I learned in order to move through it to get to the level I am is the kind of the expertise I bring, which I feel like is missing because I think a lot of people in the personal development space, especially the ones who are teaching people,
Mm-hmm.
one of my mentors says the problem with most coaches and therapists is that they haven't done the work,
Mm-hmm.
meaning it's easy to read something and it makes sense like it'll work, but unless you've actually put it into practice,
Yes.
you just won't know how far it'll work, where the deficiencies are, and the little tweaks that need to be made
Mhm.
to make sure you get the result. So I
And
can
you know
really,
firsthand because you definitely practice what you preach.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I can
yeah,
attest to that.
yeah. I don't like to, there's a lot of people who focused on learning how to be good sellers.
Mm-hmm.
My work is to deliver. It's easy to
Mm-hmm.
sell, it's really hard to deliver results. And that's why it's taken me as much time as it is to write the books I have because I didn't want to just sell
Yeah.
promises, but I wanted to actually create something that delivered results. And all of my books are um, the basis of it is trying to deliver the most results in the shortest time possible in a way that's easy to use and apply.
Okay, before we only have a few minutes left, and I want to be
Mm,
respectful of your time, but I want two last questions.
sure.
First, in the beginning, we mentioned you said there will not be a book number 13. So I want to
Yeah.
know about that. And then the other thing is if you can explain really quick, when we were talking before, you
Yeah.
mentioned motivation is a disservice. So if you can just explain that a little bit.
Sure. So there isn't a 13th book, and it's very premeditated, like a very conscious effort. And it comes down to the concept of the tricks of resistance. So when the brain, when resistance is stopping us, it doesn't tell us it's stopping us. It doesn't say, hey, Tracy, you know that thing that you're trying to do? Well, it goes against our beliefs, so I can't let you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or that skill that you want to develop, well, it would give our parents satisfaction, and we don't want to do that, so we're just going to stand here and do nothing. That's not what happens. Resistance manifests in other ways. It uses a lot of manipulative tricks and it has all sorts of tricks up its sleeve to keep us from taking action. Yeah, and some of the more obvious tricks are television, social media, video games, even drinking and, getting
Mm-hmm.
high. And I say they're obvious because when we're doing those things, a part of us knows that we should be doing something else. We
Mm-hmm.
know we're in some sort of avoidance behavior. But some of those tricks are really sly. For example, a person might get into an heightened sense of a or a heightened state of planning where they want to plan everything of what to do and how to do it and when to do it. And this is a trick because the more time they spend planning, the less time they're actually doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're not doing it, the tricks win in keeping us from moving forward.
Wow.
Yeah. Or another, yeah, it's wild. I'll share another trick and then I'll go into my books. Have you ever done something that seemed much bigger and more complicated than it was, but then when you started, you're like, that wasn't so bad?
Mm-hmm.
That's another trick because as long as resistance makes something feel so overwhelming, you don't want to start. And as long as
Mm-hmm.
you don't start, the tricks of resistance win.
Mm.
And there are tons of tricks. for me, writing was a trick because every time I'd write a book, I would finish a book and it was time to market, and I had resistance to marketing and putting myself out there, my brain came up with an amazing idea for the next book. And it'd be like, you know what? Once you write this book, then you'll definitely feel confident. Like you'll have,
Hmm.
that authority under your belt, and then we can move forward to marketing. And literally book after book, I did that. Yeah.
It's incredible.
And even my 12th book, my mind kept doing it. Like
Yeah.
even to this day, I get incredible ideas of things I could write about that no one's talking about that I know people would resonate with, just like they resonated with these books.
Hmm.
But I have to consciously tell myself, no, I've written enough book, and so I can focus on this stuff. In
Right. On
fact,
your mentoring. The
yeah,
world needs you to mentor them.
yeah, exactly. And if I kept writing, I could
Yeah.
literally have infinite number of ideas that I could talk about in really profound ways that people resonate with, but then I wouldn't be developing the skill of getting on podcasts, being able
And
to,
you could apply those to your mentoring,
yes,
maybe instead, because I mean, definitely like this, I can imagine you could go, I could see you writing a hundred
yeah,
books because I can't
easily.
even imagine how
Yeah,
your brain works. It's got to
yeah.
be, yeah, that's incredible.
And so one of the challenges I had to start doing podcasts was I wasn't a good speaker. And so I kept putting it off. And then I would write another book and then
Hmm.
another book.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, no, it's time to really start putting myself out there. And when I looked at what that meant, it really meant getting on stages, getting on podcasts,
Yep.
speaking in front of audiences, getting comfortable around high net worth and
Hmm.
high or affluent people. And those were things I had a lot of intense resistance around. And the tricks were manifesting in just writing more books because as long as I was writing a book, I could literally spend a whole 6 months or a year in avoidance of everything else
Yeah.
because I'm convincing myself once I finish this book, like literally 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that makes total sense. Wow.
yeah,
Well, you're a rock star.
thank you.
And you are officially part of the Trauma Rockstar family now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would love to reach out to maybe have you on again because I know we could get so much deeper into
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And please, I'm encouraging everybody that's listening to please reach out. Like if you're even thinking about getting a mentor, this would be your person because I feel like you could help so many people with so many different things. And it doesn't really matter that the subject matter. It's
Yeah.
how you think. So I thank you so much for being you,
Yeah.
for the work you've done to share with the world, and for being so generous with the stuff you've offered me. I appreciate it. And when I'm ready for a mentor, I'm going to be reaching out
Yeah.
myself too. I just don't have time right now, but I
Yeah.
hopefully in the next couple months I will.
Okay. Cool.
And I would love it. So I'm just so honored to have you on.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'm just going to throw this little seed. If you don't
Yeah.
have time right now, it could be a trick of resistance.
It
Because that's,
probably is. Yeah,
yeah.
it probably is.
Another way resistance keeps us from doing things is it makes us so busy, we don't have
Yeah,
the time for the thing that we're resisting.
yeah.
So I know you've got some stuff that you're working through. So that could be like an actual reason, but
Hmm.
it might also help to think, maybe are there any tricks at play?
Yeah, I will. I'm
Yeah.
gonna reflect on that for sure. And I'm gonna write about it in my journal because I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I know it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Cam.
You're
Happy
welcome,
New
Tracy.
Year. I don't think I officially was able to wish you a happy New Year either. And I will be in touch with you. And I'm so grateful. Have a
All
great
right.
rest of your night.
Thank you very much, Tracy. This was amazing.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right.